All right, what's up, y'all? Dante, are you ready for this or what, bud? You gonna do a stretch first and you'll be ready? Good. He's ready. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today's the 24th of February, 2026. This is a video on one of our fourths, In the Image Clothing Company poodles. Okay? The video's title is Dog Leads Connect from Hand to Spine. Let's talk about this. I'm just gonna get right into it. Dog leads, like a leash or a lead of some kind, whatever kind of lead it is, right? This is a slip lead. We filmed a video yesterday here, Dante and I, titled How to Use a Slip Lead. But whatever it is, we need these things to be coming out of the back of the dog's neck, okay? The spine of the dog. So dog spines are horizontal on Earth's gravity, okay? On Earth's surface, with its horizontal nature, you know, we've got Earth's gravity that's vertical, this perpendicular angle. But dog spines are horizontal. When they're standing, human being spines are vertical. The thing is, we put a lead on a dog or a leash on a dog. I prefer the word lead because you want to lead your dog places. You don't want to wrangle your dog with a leash and try to pull them back to you. See what I mean? We lead our dogs with what we place onto them. We advocate for slip leads under In the Image Clothing Company poodles. All right, there's a lot of misconceptions behind slip leads, but they're amazing if you know how to use them properly and if you're just, you know, intentional with it. So whatever it is though, we need it to come out of the back of the dog's head, basically, the back of the dog's neck. The spine of the dog travels from the base of their skull all the way out to the tip of their tail. Okay, so the spine of the dog is in the video's title, right? Dog leads connect from spine to hand, from hand to spine, from hand to spine. Let's do it from hand to spine because it's from our hand to the spine of the dog. We want this line, okay? Dog leads connect from hand to spine. So watch this. I've got this slip lead here on Dante, and as I am leading Dante where I want him to go, the lead is pulling right out of the back of Dante's neck. And so if I'm trying to get Dante to go more left, I'm pulling him directly from his spine. If I'm trying to get Dante to go more right, I'm pulling him directly from his spine. It's traveling from the base of his skull down to the tip of his tail. This pull that's happening from my hand as Dante's owner to his spine, okay? Because what we have a lot of the time is collar and leash combos. And if you do, you do. They're okay where they are. But a couple phrases for both human beings on In the Image Clothing Company's main side, with allowing the body to work being our slogan, through clothing, right? Our clothing company, we as human beings were designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. Our bodies are designed, so we're a clothing company, because anything that is placed onto our bodies is clothing them, just like the dogs, collars, leashes, harnesses, slip leads, bandanas, whatever you place onto a dog. These things are clothing the dog with something. The way that God clothes the fields with grass. It's the same thing, right? Just something placed on something else. So Dante, I love Dante. So we've got collars, okay? Collars need to be centered and snug. Keeping collars centered and the importance of snug collars, a couple things we say for both dogs and human beings. Huge focuses, okay? So you could have a loose collar, an imbalanced collar weight-wise, or just a heavy collar, or a collar in any kind of way that's not allowing your dog's neck to just be what your dog's neck is going to naturally be. These are just wild animals until we domesticate them, okay, dogs. That's the whole thing with our slogan of letting dogs stay natural on In the Image Clothing Company poodles here. These are just domesticated animals, so we bring them under our care as human beings and we place things onto them. So we've got to remember it's already an unnatural thing to place something onto the neck of a dog. But if you're trying to lead your dog somewhere, again, rather than trying to wrangle your dog and leash them back to you, if you will, you know, we can use that phrasing like that. We want to lead our dogs places, and you're going to be able to lead your dog by their spine. From your hand to the dog's spine is where the rope needs to be going. If it's a leash that's connected to a collar, we just need to be able to do all that we can to have the collar and the leash attach in such a way that it's pulling out the back of the dog's neck, okay? Because we want to just be pulling the dog from their spine. That's the center of their body, and it's up on the top of them. The leash or the lead of whatever it is, slip lead ideally, really. We love slip leads under In The Image Clothing Company poodles. Okay, the slip lead, or whatever it is though, it's got to be going straight to the back of the dog's neck because your hand's above the dog. Unless your dog's really taller than your hand when your hand's down at your side. And maybe, okay, if you've got a really big dog. But we want to be pulling straight from the back of the dog's neck, and that way we're just leading the dog directly where we want them to go. Immediately, as we move the tension of the lead from one side to the other, it's pulling a direct line from your hand to the dog's spine, in the center of their body and on the very top of their body too. Because what happens with the leash and collar combo a lot of the time is where the leash is connecting to the collar, it'll be down underneath the dog's neck. And that's the point of this video's title. That's really the point of this explanation, is that's so common in modern day, 2026. We don't want that to happen, okay? We want our dogs to be pulled from the top of them and right in the center. And that's the spine of the dog, the spine of their neck, okay? Where a slip lead is just naturally going to be pulling from if you've put it on the right side. You can flip a slip lead around, and depending on what side it is, it'll kind of pull the dog a little bit toward you. And that's another benefit of slip leads. But if you have a clip or some kind of thing like that that's connecting a leash to a collar, it's probably heavier than the rest of the collar around the dog's neck. And so that part of the collar is going to be just hanging down. And so now that's coming from your hand to underneath the dog's neck. It's coming up from your hand down around the dog's neck and to the base of the dog's neck at their throat. So now when you're pulling your dog around, you're kind of pulling your dog around rather than leading your dog nicely from the top of the back of their neck at their spine. If you've got where the leash or lead is connecting to the dog being underneath their neck, it's going to pull your dog kind of down into the side, depending on which way you're pulling on the dog. And so a lot of what happens with dogs is they get blamed for things that is the owner's fault. Even unknowingly on the end of the owners, we just don't know what we don't know. We can't be held accountable for what we don't know. But if you're pulling your dog from underneath their neck and getting upset with them that they're not following you where you want them to go, it's not a direct pull. You're pulling on your dog and it's kind of pulling down and over to one side or down and over to the other side, and you want your dog to keep their head up off the ground. You know? Look where they're going, stay by your side, have some good proper positioning as they walk for the health of the dog too, right? Just for the mechanics of the dog's body and how it works. They should be just walking normally with their head up. But if what you're using to restrain the dog with, the lead or the leash, is connecting underneath their neck, that's just going to pull their neck down, and then it's going to be pulling on their neck from a part that's not where their neck's actually connecting to their body, through bone. That's the point as well, is the dog's head is connected to the rest of the dog's body through the spine that's on the upper back part of the dog's neck, where we want the leash or the lead to be pulling directly from. Because also, not only is it just not a direct pull, and so it's not going to be all that, like, your dog's not going to be able to listen to you. I mean, they're not going to. You're going to be getting upset with your dog for not going where you're trying to have them go, or for not, like, lifting their head up and stop, you know, because dogs will just smell things. That's a natural thing for dogs to do. But a lot of times dogs are smelling things a lot more just on the ground on a walk than they naturally would, just because the leash or the lead is connecting underneath their neck and pulling them down to the ground anyway. So, you know, all these distractions that are there for dogs potentially are being amplified if their neck is being pulled down because your leash or your lead is connecting underneath their neck and just pulling their neck down. So we don't want this to happen, okay? We want the lead or the leash to connect to the back of the dog's neck, okay? Dog leads connect from hand to spine, okay? This video's title, that's the point. So, slip leads are awesome. They're just going to naturally do that. The way that the rope is just looped within itself, it just pulls up to the back of the dog's neck, and now your dog's just nice and centered, and it's being led from its actual spine. Because if your dog's being pulled around from underneath its neck, you're actually putting torsion and twisting the spine. You're putting torsion on the spine of the dog's neck. Yeah, the cervical spine of the dog. Because you're not pulling directly from the spine. The spine is the bone that's the stability of the dog's neck. There's musculature from the jaw through the dog's neck, and from the head through the dog's neck, from the shoulders up to the dog's neck, and all the ways that there is just supporting the dog's head and neck. But when it comes to the bone that's actually the support for the neck of the dog, it's the spine. Just like us human beings. And we don't want to be pulling from underneath to try to pull up and back on the dog. We're going to be wrenching on the dog's spine. If you pull from the very top of the back of the dog's neck, it's going to be the most direct pull, and your dog will be able to follow you the easiest, the best, the most direct, and they'll be more obedient. So, Dante, up. Good. You notice with this slip lead, no matter if I'm over here on Dante's right side or I'm over here on Dante's left side, it's pulling right from the very back of his neck. That's just the nature of a slip lead. It's awesome, okay? So this is the thing with collar and leash combos. Like I was saying, we just need to do all that we can to have it be able to sit in a way, no matter what brand of collar or leash you have, no matter what design you have, if there's any modifications we can do to them, we give a lot of free modifications under In The Image Clothing Company and Human Being Clothing to allow the body to work. Just modifying our lifestyles in ways that we don't know how to do things that are centered and natural to keep our bodies just unaltered. But also with the dogs, you know, if there's anything we can do with their collar and leash combo to make it so that when we're pulling on the leash, it's pulling from directly the back of the dog's neck, then your dog's going to be able to be better on the leash, and it's going to be better on the dog's body, and yeah, they're not going to be pulled down to the ground and be more distracted by things just because of the weight. You know, so we already want things light and minimal, simplistic, centered, snug, okay? Good boy. Collar-wise, and then if you do have a collar and leash combo, you want where they connect to each other to be very, very tight, meaning solid, not tight. I just mean you don't want all this play that can happen sometimes when you have a leash coming down to a collar. You'll have maybe an inch or 2 inches or something of this like play because of the clip, you know, and we don't want that. We want it to be as direct of a line from your hand to the dog's spine as we can get, because now when I'm leading Dante around, look at this. Which side is this on? This is actually on my right side, the way the slip lead's put on. Look how direct the pull is on Dante's neck, right? If I try to get him to go this way, it's immediately pulling him this way. If I try to get him this way, it's immediately pulling him this way. There's not play in where it connects to the collar. In this case, it's just a slip lead. Dante doesn't have a collar on. But in the case of a leash and a collar, if you have it pulling from the back of the neck and then there's slack that comes, sometimes, and a lot of the time, probably the majority of the time, or just about all the time even really, the weight of like the clip, like this clip here you can see, if this is connecting the leash to the dog's collar, it's just heavy. Geese. You see the geese? The geese. You're okay, but there's geese. Do you want to see the geese? You don't really care? You don't need to care. Okay, so this weight of the clip or whatever connection it is from the collar to the leash will just fall down, and now you'll just be pulling your dog, and then it has to kind of wrap up around the back of the dog's neck to be in this inline position again, and then when there's slack, it'll fall down underneath the dog's neck, and then you pull on it again, and it'll have to come back to the upper back part of the dog's neck. We just want it to be this very direct pull on the dog, okay, from the back of their neck. Anyway, I also like this, by the way, a weight kind of at the height of the dog's neck, okay, because then you've got a lot going on there. I'll give context on that where I do under In The Image Clothing Company, but there's a reason this clip is right here, specifically on this slip lead I made for Dante. So Anyway, there you go. Okay, we just want a very direct line of pull from the back of the neck of the dog to our hand. Okay, so remember, slip leads, you've got to put it on the right side so that it pulls the dog to you rather than pulling the dog away from you. Check it out where you find it under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles. We give information on what we give information on. Okay, we let dogs stay natural, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it, big time. With these dogs living in a modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth, okay, and they're just domesticated animals, meaning we've taken them out of their natural element and put them into our societies. We've just got to keep them unaltered in all the ways we can, just like our bodies, but it's different when the dogs have no say without us telling them what they can or can't do, or feeding them, you know, and otherwise they would never be able to eat, or giving them hydration, and otherwise they'd never have that without us giving it to them when we own them, you know, as just animals. So letting dogs stay natural. There's a huge reason why we're doing what we're doing under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, and this is just a really, really big point. I see this all the time, and I just never knew this, right? I never really thought about it, but I'll be walking around, and now that I see it and understand what's going on, a lot of people will get really after their dogs for not following them where they want to go and not being good on a leash or a lead. But if you're not leading your dog directly from the center of them with this nice solid pull from just the center line of their body at their spine, then they're not going to be able to just know what you're asking of them, really, not very easily. They'll have to really like think through what you're trying to get them to do, rather than just this nice direct pull, okay, from the back of their neck. So I talk about poodle posture, right? Poodles, as you can see, Dante's sitting here, they just have this like beautiful head position, okay? They just sit so properly. They stand and walk so properly. That's just the anatomy of the poodle, really. But with any dog, if you've just got weight pulling down on the dog's neck from underneath their collar, right? Like I'm saying, if you've got a leash connecting to the collar and it's just hanging from underneath the dog's neck, it's just going to pull down on their body, okay? And this is just what we talk about in general with light collars, snug, centered, minimal things placed onto the dog that we call a collar. We just don't want anything damaging the dog, you know? Just more weight on the dog than would ever be there is more weight than would ever be there. And the point is, dogs would never have anything placed on them at all in nature until we did it as human beings when we domesticate the animals, right? So we just need to keep them unaltered in all the ways we can. Same with us human beings, though. Our bodies only have one way they could ever work. It's just a mechanical machine placed onto the rock in space that is our earth, okay? Same with the dogs. We wear clothing, it can alter our bodies as human beings, big time. We get into chronic patterning, scar tissue and bone spurs build up. That's really what we do on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, is we get out of chronic patterning and scar tissue, bone spurs, problems in the body through working around things just like the dogs do. You know, oversized clothing, imbalances in clothing of any kind, ropes like shoelaces or drawstrings, anything like this on the body. Same with the dogs. Years of having collars placed on them that are imbalanced or heavy or just thick and in their way of their next motion, or like this, you know, just going on walks with your dog and having it pull on them from just underneath their neck or like the side of their neck. It's just not natural. But if we pull directly from the back of the dog's spine, then as you can see, Dante is not even reacting. Like, I'm tugging decently on the back of his neck here with a slip lead, and he doesn't even care. He's not looking up. He's not really having any reaction at all toward it, because that's the point. It just pulls the dog in a very centered position, and that's what we want. Like I said, it's for the health of the dog, it's for the obedience of the dog, and well, there's just a lot to it, okay? So we'll get into this more in depth as we do where we do under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, but today is just another date marks documentation, all right? It is the 24th of February, 2026. And we'll have collars, leashes, harnesses, similar things like this. Whatever we get into like that is what I'm saying. For sale under In The Image Clothing Company, with human being clothing as well, right? Staying centered, fitting correct, being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. There's always only natural until we make unnatural things from natural things as human beings, right? Synthetic, artificial, unnatural. these are things that don't exist until we make them as human beings. Natural, neutral, and normal, these are synonyms within the functioning of the bodies of human beings or dogs. So we do a lot with standing, walking, sitting, breathing, eating, sleeping, hydration, discussions on how to have these things be naturally done for the dogs here on In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, as well as on In The Image Clothing Company's main side with the human beings. I'm one of those, right? Human beings. All right. Anyway, the point is, there you go. I'll walk away from the camera with Dante and we'll walk back. You good boy, okay? Just watch, it's pulling straight from the back of his neck, you know? Okay, Dante, come. Okay, see what I mean? That's just the nature of a slip lead. They just cinch into the position that's on the back of the dog's neck. And they don't actually get tight, by the way. Slip leads, they can't cinch around the dog's neck because it's pulling against itself. And it's pulling in a direction that is like not going to strangle your dog. I guess that's the point. You know, I touched on this in the video we filmed yesterday titled How to Use a Slip Lead, like I referenced already in this video. Slip leads are not going to strangle your dog if you're intentional as the owner, but it's always the owner's fault. Anything that happens to the dog, we're the owners of this dog, you know, if you own a dog. So you've got to take the accountability of what's going on. You've got to learn how to use it properly. But yeah, I mean, look, he has like no reaction. He doesn't really care. I mean, I'm really, you know, tugging relatively firmly just to show you want that to happen. You want to pull directly off the back of your dog's neck from your hand. Otherwise, you're going to have a dog that's not knowing where you're trying to get them to go because there's a delayed reaction. If it's got to come from the bottom of the dog's neck and kind of rotate up around their neck to pull tension before you can actually like lead your dog somewhere, then yeah, that's just not gonna work very well at all. Okay, so just right off the back of the dog's neck. Okay, dog leads, also you could call it a leash, connect from hand to spine. Okay, just this, look at this direct line. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Just right from the back of his neck, wherever we're going, it's just a direct pull. He doesn't have to question where I'm trying to get him to go. It'll just naturally move his whole body and his whole spine all at once. So anyway, slip leads are great. That's the thing. I'm gonna flip it around. We'll do it on the other side so I can show you what I mean. Slip leads, there's a proper side to put them on. Okay, you want the loop side between you and the dog. Whatever side is a loop, or maybe there's a ring or some kind of way like that. You want it between you and the dog. But I'm just gonna show this. I showed a similar thing in the video yesterday that we made, right? How to use a slip lead. But just while I'm discussing this under this video's titling, yeah, it'll just come straight out the back of the dog's neck, regardless of what side you have the slip lead on, if you're putting it on the right side, you know, meaning the proper side. But it's just very hard to have this happen with a collar and leash combo unless you have a way that it maybe connects to both sides of the dog's head on the collar and then comes up to the center. And they have, you know, designs like that. And we'll get into what we get into within the Image Clothing Company designs with collar and leash combos, if and where. But you just have to be able to have this happen because it's almost never going to. If you just clip a collar to a leash, or clip a leash to a collar is really how we'd word it, because the collar is already on the dog probably, and you just clip the lead to it, or the leash to it, right? You're almost never going to have it just stay right on the back of the dog's neck. There's things you can do, and there's ways you can attach it, but it's just so common for your dog to have this delayed response, and you're just trying to walk your dog and have it be a very direct, nice walk, but your dog doesn't know which direction you're actually pulling until all that slack gets taken out from it, you know, moving to the position that's the back of the dog's neck. And if there's any weight on the collar imbalanced, the heaviest part of the collar, almost all of the time that it's on the dog, is just going to be hanging down right at the dog's base of their throat, at the bottom of the dog's neck. And that's the exact opposite position that we want it. We want it up on the top of the back of the dog's neck, just for the dog's body, if nothing else. But then especially if you're really trying to lead your dog somewhere, you have to be able to pull them straight from the back of their neck. Okay, so I'll just walk away from the camera and walk back with him again. Now he'll be on my left side because I flipped the slip lead around to where the looped part of it is between him and I. Okay, just so you can see, it's just pulling straight from the back of his neck. The big point really is you will waste your time as the owner, as the trainer of a dog, whatever it is that you're doing with a dog. If you're trying to get them walk well on a leash, you can't blame them. If it's not a direct pull, you're gonna just waste your time. If you're really trying to get them to just stay right by your side or just not pull on the leash, because there's not tension until the collar really wraps all the way back up around to the back of the dog's neck if it's falling down to the base of the dog's throat. And so your dog doesn't even know they're pulling when they're pulling until all that motion of the collar twisting around their neck to get to the back of their spine happens. And then there's that real firm, solid pull or tension. But then as the tension releases, the collar will slide back down and rotate back around the dog's neck again. We just don't want this motion happening in the collar on the dog. That's where the phrase comes in, the importance of snug collars for both human beings and dogs. We just want it to be a nice snug fit around the dog's neck so that it's not this unpredictable feeling, and so that we're not just pulling from different parts of the dog's neck, or the dog, if they pull, it's not pulling on them when they pull tension on the lead. You're just going to have your dog learn to pull tension on the lead so much quicker, meaning to not pull tension on the lead. You're going to teach that so much quicker to the dog if you can have this very direct line of communication, is really what it is, right? With this video's title, Dog Leads Connect from Hand to Spine. If it's just direct, you're going to cut down on all the time it could possibly take to train your dog to walk well on a leash or a lead, and it's just going to be a better experience. Your dog's going to get worn out less as well, because it's just going to be in the natural position of the dog's spine if it's pulling from the dog's spine with a direct line to your hand. You're so patient and good, boy. You're a good boy. All right, we'll walk, and I'll just kind of pull it back and forth like I was showing. It's the same thing. It's just because this is a slip lead in this case, one side versus the other. I did it on my right side, we'll do it on my left here. But you can just see, I don't have to pull tension with Dante. He's just such a good dog. There's no tension on the lead right now. I know he's just sitting, but usually there's just about no tension that Dante pulls on his lead. But I'll show what it's like when I do pull tension. And then actually we'll walk again, and I'll just let him walk next to me with no tension, without me like intending on it being taught, so you can see what I'm saying. Okay, Dante, come. Dante walks better than that on a lead, but I was just kind of pulling it back and forth like I'm doing here, just to show no matter if it's on one side of him or the other side of him, it's still just coming right out the back of his neck. That's just the nature of a slip lead put on correctly. That's why it's awesome. You can get this to happen with a collar and leash combo, but you just have to put it on very intentionally. We're gonna walk away from the camera and back again. This time I'm not gonna try to pull it. We'll just watch Dante to see how he can walk on his lead. But notice, as he's turning his head around and as he's just looking, it's not like there's weight underneath his neck, or a rope underneath his neck, that as he moves, it like pulls him around. There's an airplane noise. That's a jet. Little one. But when Dante's standing here, that's what I mean, is he can just turn his head and look around, he can do whatever he's doing, and this has basically no effect on him, being on him, because it's coming right out the back of his neck, okay, straight from where his spine is. It's like not even there, essentially, you know, to him. It's like he barely even notices it's on him. That's what you want. You just don't want distraction, you know? You don't want that delayed pull response, and you don't want to alter the dog's body, you know, whatever else we could say like that. There's a lot of things that come with this. You want the direct line just straight from your hand to the back of the dog's neck. So we're gonna do this again. I'll just walk away and walk back. We'll just do it normally with him on my left side, so you can just see how Dante walks on a lead here. And there are dogs over there, so he's a little bit distracted looking at those, but let's do this again. Dante, come. See, so this is just normal Dante walking on a lead. You notice there's no tension on it. And yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. A lot of that's just Dante, you know, credit to Dante for being such a good dog. But there you go. Okay, straight out the back of the neck of the dog, from your hand, straight to the spine of the dog. There you go. Okay, harnesses. Let's talk about harnesses, because that's a big point. Harnesses, there's a lot of benefits to harnesses. Okay, we've got a collar and leash combo. So the collar's around the neck of the dog, and then you connect a leash to it. Or you've got not a collar in this case, but a harness and a leash combo, where a harness will go around the dog's shoulders, like this, right? Come up around the dog's shoulders, and come like under their chest, and just around their front arms, if you will, right? Their front, the upper part of their leg. The upper part of their front legs is what I'm saying, right? And around their chest. A harness is good in a lot of ways for this reason, because normally you'll connect a harness right to the back of the dog. Basically like right between their shoulders on their back, between those shoulder blades. Right around in there is just where you're gonna be connecting most leash to harness combos. And that's good for a lot of reasons, like I'm saying in this video, that'll stay centered right atop their spine, if you will. It's raining a little bit. I feel a few raindrops. But the thing with harnesses is we've got to be very careful to keep them the same tension when you pull them, like either maybe they're buckling, or maybe it's just like a strap that tightens as you pull it, or whatever it is. You just want even tension on both sides, so you're not changing the workings of the dog's shoulders from left to right, and just the range of motion in their front legs or their arms, right, depending on how you want to say that. That's a big point with harnesses. And also just, yeah, it can be in the way unless your harness is very minimal, like thin and not thick enough to where it's bulky, and so the dog's legs can't just naturally move and rest against their own sides. And then also, yeah, well, that's a problem, is the point. That'll just limit the range of motion, meaning just the range of the motion that the dog's arms have, right, or front legs. But also the shoulder blades on the back of the dog, as the dog walks and steps, the top of their shoulders here, right next to their spine, the shoulder blades, or the withers, if you will, okay, these bones on the top of their back up here, right below their neck, okay, on either side of their spine, just the top of their front legs. They move up and down as they walk. If you watch Dante walk, Dante, come. Come. Right here up on the top of his back, okay, his shoulder blades, the withers, is what they call them in dogs. They move up and down. So if you have a harness there, it's actually kind of in the way. of the natural shoulder motion of the dog. So that's the thing, is it is very beneficial to have harnesses because you can connect it straight from the center of the dog's spine, but then it's potentially having material right in the way of their shoulder blade motion or their withers motion, right? Just their arms moving, their front legs. So there's a lot to this, right? But this is the point with the video's title, is just what I'm showing here. And then now we've discussed a collar and leash combo, a slip lead. Slip leads just naturally do this, which is awesome. And then a harness and a leash combo, which would probably be right in the center of the dog's back as well, but potential restriction coming from harnesses for sure, okay? Depending on the design and the material and how you put it on, if you're doing it centered and keeping it nice and even as you tighten it onto the dog, you know, so there's a lot that comes with it, to keep the pull directly from the back of the dog's body, just directly from the dog's spine to your hand, or from your hand to the dog's spine. Okay, this video's title, that's the point. Dog leads pull from spine to hand, from hand to spine. It's titled what it's titled, something just like that, okay? That's the point, and there you go. Advocating for slip leads, man, that's a big thing that we'll be doing. So, shout out to the airplanes, because, you know, you'd have to over the noise for them to hear you. It is what it is, though, okay? There's your information. All right. I'll wait it out for as long as I do. The noise of the plane. Good boy, Dante. Good. You are good. So good. Good. Hi. Oh, yeah. Good. 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 Okay. Yes. Good. Good, good, good. All right. Good. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Poodle parade events. Under In the Image Clothing Company poodles, one of the things we'll do, you can bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodle of any size, here to the state of Utah. Okay, we live up Utah as In the Image Clothing Company. We do a lot in nature, okay? The beautiful, diverse nature here. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints headquarters are here in the state of Utah. We do a lot in and around and through and because of the state of Utah, under In the Image Clothing Company and all four sides. So yeah, we'll get people into nature, dogs into nature, through poodle parade events. Under In the Image Clothing Company poodles come for the event, not for In the Image Clothing Company's team. Okay, it'll be fun. We'll do things like clean the creek or rid the rubbish, specific subcategory of poodle parade events, actually doing things for the environment, like picking up trash for the beautiful state of Utah. Okay, and wherever else we go if we do with our events as well, but Utah is our focus location-wise under In the Image Clothing Company. Dante and I are moving down to St. George, Utah within a couple months, for sure, okay? As of today's date, the 14th plus 10, it's the 24th of February, 2026 today. All right, so anyway, we're doing what we're doing, and this is a lot of what we do under In the Image Clothing Company poodles. Don't blame your dog, okay? Dogs are getting blamed for so many things that are not their fault at all. We've got to remember, dogs don't know anything about what we're saying as human beings until we teach it to them. Dogs don't know what it means to even be on a rope until they do, you know? So if you're trying to teach a dog how to walk on a leash or on a lead, first of all, it's new for them regardless. It's just an animal. They don't know why this thing's on them. They don't know what they're supposed to do until they learn what you're trying to get them to do, and that's your responsibility as the owner of the dog. But then also, if we don't make it as easy as we can for them to understand, like I pull here, you go there. If I pull here, you go there, you know, with a direct line of pull from your hand to the dog's spine, then a lot of it's not your dog's fault. They can be trying to do it as best as they possibly can. And if there's just like slack in the leash or the lead, or if there's just pull of weight from like a clip this different than the pull of your hand? Well, they might be feeling the pull of the clip going one direction, but you're trying to pull them the other way, and they're like, well, I mean, I'm going what way I'm being pulled, but it's not your hand pulling them. If it's just the weight of something else, you know, like the connection from the leash to the collar, for example. So there's a lot to this, and we just have to really take accountability as the owners of dogs. That's a lot of what we do. We advocate for being good owners of dogs and how to under In The Image Clothing Company, and under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles specifically as one of our fourths under In The Image Clothing Company. But there's a lot of misconceptions just in life in general. We discuss a lot of these things as In The Image Clothing Company, but with dogs and ownership of dogs and what it means to have a dog be healthy or what it means to have a dog be comfortable. These dogs would always only just live on the dirt and rock out in nature. And so there's a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions, you know, what things are abusive towards dogs versus what things aren't, you know, how to actually just be an owner of a dog. Keeping less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes is what we advocate for under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, but it starts before birth. Advocating for adopting dogs from shelters, that can be great. Dante here is a rescue from the South Utah Valley Animal Shelter, just for some context, but it's not the solution by any means. Adopting dogs, if we never had stray dogs to begin with, there would never be an animal shelter to matter, right? We would never need animal shelters. There'd be no dogs to adopt if they never got out of their homes. So we got to start before birth with proper breeding. We advocate for purebred dogs for the health of dogs, not the prestige. But mixed dog breeds, when we say a mutt is a mutt, it's not an offensive thing, but in nature you would just about never have dogs mixing breed to breed. It's very unhealthy for a lot of reasons, and we get into it in depth with the discussion, but the importance of purebred dogs is a really big deal no matter what for the health of the dog. Okay, so we do a lot of these things under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles here, you know, discussing holding leashes naturally, you know, leashes or leads, whatever it is, because we don't want to alter our bodies by having the dogs like pulling on us, man, you know, in a position that our bodies don't work in. And so we really discuss and show how to do these things natural and centered, and just to keep our bodies unaltered as the owners of dogs, like the height of dogs versus the height of the owner, so we don't have to get down to the ground really low to a small little dog if you're pretty tall as a human being, or just in general, most dogs are quite a bit smaller than human beings. There's some really, really big dogs out there, definitely, but right. And there's some pretty small human beings out there too, right? So that's what I'm saying, is we discuss this, the proper height dog for you as a human being, or, you know, at least the relative ideal height, so that you don't have a hard time interacting with your dogs. There's just a lot that we do under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, and we'll continue to deepen our information, deepen our understandings personally, and then we'll give the information on the understandings we have as we deepen it. And our team will build, you know, down in St. George, Utah, we'll do so much in the beautiful desert, red rock, sandstone. It's like a barren wasteland down there, but it's awesome. It's beautiful, very hot in the summers, warm, relatively warm in the winters, just about 3.5 hours south from where we are here in Utah County. And we'll just span the state of Utah with what we do under In The Image Clothing Company, with events and, you know, all the things that we get into, the people we work with, and you know, organizations, things like this, for the environment. We'll do a lot, and we do a lot already, but we'll just, you know, deepen and grow as we do, as our team builds. That's a big point, okay? And our awareness of who we are, why we're here, what we're actually doing, being a clothing company, only to allow the body to work, right? Or for the sake of the dogs, we're a clothing company in the sense of collars, leashes, and harnesses and things like this, you know, slip leads, bandanas, whatever it is you place onto a dog, only to get to the functionality of the dog's body, because until we place something onto our bodies, well, God designed them to work. The only end is to allow the design of the human being by God to work, or to let the design of the dogs by God to stay natural. Right, God designed the human being in His image. God designed the dogs, the earth, and all its inhabitants, and it just is what it is until we step in and we do things as human beings, and we alter things, you know, we damage things, and it just happens, man. So we got to limit it as much as we can if we want to have healthy lives. The point is really about health, truly. All right, so there you go. That's where we'll leave it. Is that good or what? It's so good? That's awesome. You did good, dude. You're still doing good. You're just a good dog. He's just staring right in my eyes. You're so good, Dante. All right. Thank you. In the Image Clothing Company Music, another one of our fourths. I guess I'll mention it, right? And then In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, another one of our fourths. Ah, shoot. Thank you. Okay, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're on episode 204 of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast as of today's date. Just deep insights on life. You know, you don't have to be religious or anything like that by any means. I'm not religious, but there's truth to life. All right, we're all human beings, the same thing, placed on the same earth, designed by the same God. It is what it is before we got here, and it'll be the same after we leave. So yeah, in the Image Clothing Company Music, we show the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter things like the neutral wrist straight out from the pinky finger and the natural rounding in our hands that correlates with the arches in our feet. You know, there's a lot of stuff we do. Rhythm and poetry, lyricism, music making through singing and guitar playing, spoken word, whatever we do, those are a lot of things we do on In the Image Clothing Company Music. Yikes. Yeah, there's a lot that we do. So just don't well, you can do whatever you want. I was gonna say don't underestimate us. No, you can, that's your choice. What I mean is don't not see the fullness of what we're doing under In the Image Clothing Company by just looking at our company name and seeing the word clothing in it and thinking that we're just a clothing company. Now, I mean, we'll certainly have good products for sale, and the only reason though is to just allow the body to work, to let the dog stay natural. So just to be clear, we do a lot. We'll do a lot of in-person events. We'll do a lot for the environment. We'll do a lot within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the Gospel of Jesus Christ. A lot with music, a lot with poodles, you know, furthering good bloodlines of dogs through breeding purebred standard poodles. We'll do this to show how to do it properly. Not that we're going to do it perfect. We're not going to do it perfect. We're not perfect. None of us as human beings, just to be clear. But with doing so much through the gift of video like this, you know, we'll show the process of breeding dogs. We'll just have a lot of poodles under In the Image Clothing Company poodles. Our team will, and you know, as we breed poodles, we'll just give a lot of information and work with good organizations doing similar things to us, right? Good people doing good things. That's what we are trying to be as In the Image Clothing Company. So those are the kind of people we're going to be working with, and that's just how it is, man. That's just why we're here. All right, so there you go. We're not just a clothing company, just to be very clear. And this is not just the only thing we're going to be discussing with slip leads, harnesses, collars, and leash combos, you know, harness and leash combos. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of little modifications that can be had or be done in these type of things to not alter the dogs, from designs that are potentially just imbalanced or weighty to begin with, you know, heavy. Or material wise, you know, just natural materials, because there's always only natural until we make unnatural materials, like I was saying earlier a little bit in this video. But there's a lot to it when it comes to just a collar alone, you know. And then there's so many things that we discuss with dogs because they are just domesticated animals. They would never be under, really we can use it as this phrasing, right, the control of human beings until we unnaturally select the dogs we want to you know, make, in a way, new breeds. Dude, you got sand all over your nose. Yeek. Anyway, yeah, okay, so we've been doing this for quite a bit of time, really. In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, we've been making videos, we meaning me, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, since at least May of 2025, you know, almost a year. But, you know, now I actually have Dante, my first standard poodle, and, you know, we'll get into it. Once we move down to St. George, Utah a lot, we'll be able to kind of blossom and branch out quicker and easier, because our team will actually be able to be built, because that's where we're going to be located for life, right? As I say, we're going to set up base camp for life in St. George, Utah, as In the Image Clothing Company. And so Dante and I just need to move down there first, and then we can do a lot more from there. But a lot of these are just documentations. If we're just discussing things that are always the same, you know, then they'll never change. That's how that works, right? If that's not obvious. Okay, another name for God is the truth. The truth, anything that is true, it has always and will always be true. Truth is unchanging, the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so that's the point with the beautiful gift of video, is we discuss something like this, and no matter what it is, you need to be pulling from the back of your dog's neck. No matter what time period ever, right? We just need to be pulling straight from the spine of the dog, no matter what design of a leash or a collar combo or a slip lead or anything, because things change over time, but truth doesn't. And the truth is, the dogs would just be always unaltered until we put something onto them as human beings. So that's just the focus, is just to not alter the dog. All right? Okay, thank you, goodbye.